So good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to do a quick revision of unit number 2, and then we have a unit test for unit 2. So before we start, let me display the screen. Unit number 2, the title of the unit is Technical Writing. Right, we have been working on different kinds of documents and different kinds of writing that is required in an organization. Right, so the very first thing that we did was technical description. Technical descriptions are actually all about product or process. It's a description that happens in case of a product or a process. You have to describe it. There are steps to describe it. You have to maintain a chronology in it. You cannot skip the chronology. Right, you have to do stepwise. Either you go move from front to back when you're describing, or you move from back to front. Giving titles, introduction, and workings of the process or the product is very important in technical description. Technical descriptions are meant for people who want to use the product or people who wish to go through the process. That is why it is important. Right, next we have got technical proposal. Technical proposals are written to provide some kind of a service that is required by one organization and it is provided by another organization. Technical proposals, remember every technical document, it is very important to remember that each technical document has its own structure. It is highly formal. There are certain changes according to the organizations, otherwise it remains the same. All these documents are meant for recording purpose, the purpose to record things, to be kept and to be documented. These are used as permanent records. Technical proposals, when they are written, there are few things that we need to know and mention. First, we need to know who is writing the proposal and to whom the proposal has been written to, so that you need to mention. Secondly, whatever you are drafting is known as the rough draft because the proposal might change. It is highly inevitable to inform the clients about your cost estimate, how much would be the price. It's a rough estimation, could go up, could go down, but it's a rough estimate that you give. Technical proposals are meant for future references, so remember, keeping in mind the future. Moreover, you cannot write a technical proposal without referencing. Referencing means a similar kind of a product or process that has happened somewhere, you need to mention it over there. Next, you have got business letters. Even though now we don't write letters, we do type letters, and letters are still an important part of each and every organization that we have. You need to write different kinds of letters. So the format and structure of the business letters has been universally accepted as the block layout. By block layout, we mean we have to write everything to the left towards the margin. You have to align everything on the left towards the margin. Right? There are different kinds of business letters that you write, like inquiry letters, order letters, complaint letters, adjustment letters, etc. Now the structure of each letter remains the same, that is the block layout, where you write the sender's address, the date, the receiver's address, the subject line, the salutation, the main body, a complimentary clause, the enclosures, etc. What changes is each kind of a letter has its own set of vocabulary that you have to write. So when you are writing an inquiry letter, you have to always write about the brochure. That is, you are asking for some product or you are asking for something. So you need to ask them to provide you with a brochure or a catalog. It could be a brochure, it could be a catalog, right? That you need to ask for. when you are writing inquiry letters. But when you are writing a complaint letter, you don't require a brochure or a catalog, right? You need to just draft a complaint where you have to tell about your, where you have to talk and tell about your complaint. What product are you complaining for? Why are you complaining? What is the problem with the product that has been delivered to you, etc., is what you can mention over there. Letters are also written for reference purpose. For future, when you place an order, it is better to have a good communication. It's better to have a proper communication before any kind of a misunderstanding arises, because when you are dealing with somebody, when you are placing orders with some company, you don't place an order for one or two products. It would be in bulk, and you continue with the same company for longer duration of time. You need to develop professional relationships for longer duration of time. So that is why you should write business letters in proper manner with the use of proper set of vocabularies, so that it is an important documentation that occurs in organizations. Next, you have got report writing. Reports are written after any kind of an incident takes place. Usually, reports are also meant for future references. Reports are also meant for future references. In what way? Let's say some incident or some program has happened in the organization, but it did not go as expected. It did not go as expected. So what went wrong? What was wrong? Or where did the problem arise is what you can find out from the report. A report is actually a way or a method of finding the problem. Not only the problem in the report, the person who drafts the report, the person who drafts the report would also give his or her valuable opinions, would also provide his or her valuable opinions, so that such future programs, when they are held by an organization, what kind of changes can the organization bring to make the program better, right? Or make the product better, to make the process better. That is why reports have become an important part of it. Remember, because reports are written after the incident or the event takes place, it is written in past tense. A report is considered incomplete without the recommendation section, because it is the most important section of the report. Reports are written in various different ways, but we are supposed to follow either the memo or the memorandum format or the letter format, wherein you have at least 3 paragraphs of description, and then towards the end of the report you are supposed to give your recommendations, your valuable feedback. Remember, we have been talking since unit number 1 that without feedback, any activity, right, be it even communication or be it even talking to people, is incomplete without the feedback, right? So your recommendation would be really important. Recommendations would be really important because they are a kind of feedback that are given to organizations. So any report would be considered incomplete without a recommendation or recommendatory part. Next, we have got agenda of meeting. Meetings are inevitable portions of any organization. uh, Organizations still have meetings. Meetings are actually a way of discussing problems, finding solutions together, etc. So meetings happen in 3 phases. There is something called before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. What happens before the meeting is technically termed as the agenda of the meeting. You have to draft the agenda. The agenda of the meeting is drafted to inform everybody who is supposed to attend the meeting what the meeting is all about. It also helps you to prepare for the meeting. It also keeps the meeting on track, and you know how much is to be discussed in one particular hour. Now, the agenda of the meeting has a specific format that we need to follow. Remember, you have to have a list of people who are invited. Who's going to chair the session? Chairing means the person who has called the meeting. What are the things or the items to be discussed, etc., are mentioned in the agenda for meeting. Agenda for meeting is written before the meeting takes place, and the people who are supposed to attend the meeting are informed well beforehand. Are informed, I repeat, they are informed well beforehand. Next, you have minutes of the meeting. Minutes of the meeting are the after process of a meeting. They happen or they are written after the meeting. Whatever we write during the meeting, they are considered as note taking and not agenda, not minutes. From the word itself, minutes, you come to know minutes of the meeting means word by word, minute by minute description of what happened in the meeting. Now, remember, every time everybody, when they are invited to a meeting, it is not necessary that everybody can attend the meeting. Due to some other work assigned by the organization at the same time, people might not be able to attend the meeting. Now, how will they know what happened in the meeting? So they will know from the minutes of the meeting. They'll come to know from the minutes of the meeting, right? So the minutes of the meeting can be written by the secretary or by anybody to whom the chair. By the chair, we mean the person who has called the meeting. He or she would assign the work to someone. He or she would assign the work to someone. Okay, so whoever has been assigned the job will be noting down the minutes of the meeting, or it's the secretary who does it. Minutes of the meeting also, it is made sure that when we open a meeting or when we start a meeting, the minutes of the last meeting are read in front of everybody and the signatures of everyone is taken, that these were the decisions taken or this is what we came upon in the last meeting, right? So that people are aware about it and people also have an idea about it. All right. The next thing that happens over here is it is written not only that we take the attendance of people who were there in the meeting in the minutes, but we also write down who has been given what responsibility, right? Responsibilities are distributed in the meetings, right? So to keep a track of who is going to do what work, that is mentioned in the minutes of the meeting, so that whenever you find a confusion or whenever you feel it is difficult to remember who is going to do the work, you can always refer back to the minutes of the meeting. Next, you have got cover letter and resume. Cover letter and resume. Excuse me for that. A resume is always accompanied by a cover letter. Cover letter is written just like all the other business letters that we write. Cover letter should actually have a minimum of 3 passages or 3 paragraphs. The purpose of a cover letter is, remember, we have always been talking about the purpose. So the purpose of a cover letter is to provide information to a prospective employer where you got, you as a candidate, where did you get the information about the job vacancy. That's what a cover letter does, right? Moreover, the cover letter is a chance for the candidate to highlight his or her skills. The cover letter is a chance for the candidate to highlight his or her skills. Moreover, remember, when you write cover letters, one of the important aspects is you are supposed to write enclosures. Enclosure means what you have included along with the letter. So as I said, a cover letter will be accompanied by a resume. So you have to write in the enclosure that enclosures, and the enclosure you have a resume attached with the cover letter. Next is a resume. There are a few words that can be confusing like resume and biodata, but remember the purpose. The name should be according to the purpose. So if the purpose is matrimony, it will be called as a biodata. But if the purpose is employment, then it is called a resume. What is a resume? It is actually a written documentation of your educational qualifications and your eligibility for a job post. Right? The resume is a medium of gaining you a chance for interview. The resume should include your personal details like your full name, your contact details, that is your working mobile number, your email ID, etc. Apart from that, you are supposed to include your educational qualification, arranging it in an reverse chronology, that is the latest degree first and then the rest. It should also include your work experience, your experience as working in projects, your projects that you have done in schools, in your college work. It should also include your achievements. You can also include the extracurricular and co-curricular activities that you have done during a certain period of time. Moreover, you can also mention the experience you gain by participating in various competitions, national level, state level, etc. over here in your resume. Remember, for each job interview that you want to give your resume for, you cannot give the same resume. You have to tailor the resume according to the need of the job position. That is where we have the objective statement that should come. In your resume, you should always write an objective statement. What do you feel, or what is your objective? What do you wish to do in your field is what you will mention over here. Please never mention personal information like height, weight, etc. in your resume, which is not required. Right? So that was resume writing. So with this, we had completed unit number 1. And now what I'll do is I'll help you with the unit test link. Just give me a minute. I'll be giving you the test link, and then you can start attempting the test. Remember, whenever you are attempting this test, do not be in a hurry to submit the test. Certain questions can be tricky. Read the question as well as the option very carefully. Read the question as well as the option very carefully. And I would suggest that you read things carefully. Don't rush. Don't rush to answer the questions and submit the test in a hurry. Okay. So here you go. I have got the link of the test in the chat box. And you can click the link and you can start your test now. And I can see 7, 8 of you have already completed the quiz. Rest who are still to complete, kindly complete it before 2:15 because the quiz will be closed after that. Right? By the time you were giving your test for unit number 2, I've already taken the attendance. From next week, we are going to start with unit number 3. Fine, we'll call it a day over here. Thank you, class. Have a nice day. Thank you.